What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Halfback Dynasty. My name is Brendan. We are joined today with our co-host Tyler, the legendary Gator Sens. Tyler, how the heck you feeling, my friend?
Feeling pretty good overall, Brendan. Just packing up tonight, getting ready to see you on your home turf here tomorrow. We'll be in Chicago. As far as fantasy goes, man, I'm not sure how I'm feeling. I feel even worse than I did last week. I know I said I was pretty down last week, but man, this is I understand the opening weeks are rough, but this year the opening weeks are rough. This has been a tough season so far. How you feeling tonight?
You know, I feel decent. Like, I'd say a quarter of the leagues I'm rebuilding in, and those ones are always the most fun, least amount of pressure. You get to have more fun picking up guys off the waivers, try to sell them in season to contenders. On the leagues that I'm contending in, I just feel like this has been one of the hardest years to project who is going to be good. Like, I came into the season thinking that a lot of my teams were very good and that I had some depth or whatnot, had some up and coming studs, but I feel like it hasn't been as concrete as it normally is in the past. And I feel like there's a lot of guys stepping up right now, big time, who were really low on the ranks in the off season. So it's hard for me to gauge what's going on here. And I can only tell you this. The one thing I've learned so far, more than any year, is if you are looking at wide receivers, they have to have a quarterback that can throw them the ball. That's my new golden rule. I will no longer keep wide receivers that don't have QBs on my team.
Yeah, it's always tricky because the better the QB, obviously you feel safer with the wide receiver. Yeah, it's really interesting. The one that sticks out to me the most so far this year, somebody who does not have a great QB, would probably be Drake London. You know, he's shown up well with having Mariota. But yeah, then you look at, Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, guys like that are in just a totally different stratosphere. Yeah, where they could score. I mean, I think if you're a Kupp manager, you're legitimately disappointed if he doesn't score 30.
Yeah, which he did this past week. I bet $100 that he'd break 98 yards and he didn't.
Oh man,
scored 44 yards. I was like, bro, what? After having like 33 yards in the first 5 minutes of the game.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, it was bad. Don't sports bet.
Been a weird year.
Yeah, real quick, one more sports bet that I had. I had a parlay going last night. It was like Ezekiel Elliott, anytime touchdown score, Saquon Barkley, anytime touchdown score, Saquon Barkley over 76 yards on the ground. And then I had Noah Brown over 40 yards. All of those hit, right? Then the last one I had was Cooper Rush for under 212 passing yards. He had 210 passing yards on the very last play they had. It was third down, a minute 50 left in the game. The New York Giants had no timeouts. What did the Cowboys do? Instead of running the ball up the middle, they freaking passed it on their last offensive play for a 3-yard reception and ran out of bounds and stopped the clock and ruined my $500 parlay. I was so pissed off.
Oh man,
I was so pissed off. That's how you feel. That's the type of feeling you get when you feel like Vegas rigs it. I mean, I'm only throwing chump money around, but bro, who runs the ball with a minute 50 left? You're up a score. You're on your 40-yard line. Yeah. What the hell, man?
Obviously it's a weird play, but it's amazing how much those guys, in a parlay bet, it's unbelievable the numbers that the people that set those lines.
They're so accurate.
It's unbelievable. It's crazy.
They're so accurate. I'm convinced that there's algorithms. There has to be a database of algorithms that compiles literally all the data from matchups, previous games, statistics, and first off, why am I betting on Cooper Rush? You know what I mean?
Hey, man.
It's a problem to begin with in the first place.
Yeah, that's a good point. But hey, that it also could be Biff Tannen, jumping out of the DeLorean with Gray's Sports Almanac. You don't know who's setting these lines, You don't.
And one thing I've learned is when you feel it's the almanac. Yeah. The good old days, the fantasy football magazines, baby. Let's go. Bring them back out.
Tell you what.
So dope. All right. Well, let's actually talk about that Monday night game that we saw yesterday real quickly. Cooper Rush is 3-0. The G-men
Yep.
are now 2-1, which they could have definitely won that game. In terms of both teams, I think neither of them will take the NFC East. I think the Eagles just look amazing, right? Jalen Hurts is in the running for MVP. He's shocking everyone. I did not believe in
Yep.
him. I thought, this was a year that he'd probably be replaced, but he's looking good. Their wide receivers are looking good. But anyways, what we've seen with the Giants, Kenny Galladay's done, man. Kenny
Yep.
Galladay had a horrible drop. I would drop him in any league. I can't believe, I took Galladay for Jefferson. That's the worst trade I ever made with you. And worst trade I've actually ever made. But, at the time, he still won the year. So no worries. Sterling Shepard out for the year.
Done for the year.
Saquon Barkley is the only guy who's capable of doing anything on that offense. He looks good, man. He looks good. Daniel Jones, they didn't pick up his fifth-year option. He's not going to be with them next year. Cowboys, man. CeeDee Lamb finally came out to play. Noah Brown looks good, man. Noah Brown's a little stashed, type of player. That's what I took away from these games. And also, lastly, Tony Pollard is the running back in Dallas. I'm sorry. Zeke is not the guy anymore. That's what I took away. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, CeeDee Lamb could have had a huge night. That drop he had was just terrible because he was probably taking that to the house. That was like 50 yards.
It was a huge tutty, dude. It fell right between his hands.
Yeah, right between his hands. So, but it was nice to see him come to play a little bit. Like you said, Noah Brown. Noah Brown was pretty solid prospect actually coming out of Ohio State. He didn't have the draft capital, but was pretty solid prospect overall at the combine and things like that. Nice to see him getting a shot. I'm guessing he'll start to trail off once Gallup gets back in the lineup. As you said, I mean, man, I'm not high on Pollard or Zeke and really wouldn't have much interest in either one of them. And I mean, it showed there could be games that they're both successful. Zeke just, looks a little bit slower than he used to. So I really wouldn't feel comfortable starting either one of them, but I get the running back position, if you read my Patreon article this week, is a disaster. So Zeke and Pollard are both better options than most of us have. So you got to start somebody. And on the other side of the ball, I mean, Barkley's about it. I do feel bad on the personal level for Shepard, who was coming back he snapped his Achilles, didn't he?
I think last year he did. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he just can't stay healthy, man, which is a shame because when he's on the field, he's a good player, he's a good prospect coming out. I feel bad for him on a personal level, obviously, but the Giants, you're not going anywhere near that offense if it's not Barkley. And it's funny that you mentioned the Jefferson and Galladay trade. I didn't look at Galladay's stats, but he might have outscored Jefferson last week for all I know. All he needed was 15 yards.
I don't think so. I don't even know if he's got a reception on the year, dude. He had a pretty bad drop up the middle. So I literally don't. I mean, dude, they don't play him. I'm pretty sure week 1 or 2, he got 2 snaps. It's bad.
That's a massive contract to have fallen apart like that because Galladay was a really good receiver there for a few years. But if you didn't outscore Jefferson on the weekend, not good.
Not good at all. Not good at all. Jefferson's had a couple down weeks after his monster start week 1.
Man.
Chase. It is what it is.
Far. Very disappointing.
So I think what these guys, I think with the younger stud wide receivers, one thing I noticed is they are a little more up and down. They could have huge games, but then they disappear, right? Look at Amari Cooper a few years ago. He's very similar, I think what I've learned with older guys, the older wide receivers, I mean, everyone's due for a down week, but the older wide receivers, they never have a down week. Their ceiling is so much lower, but their floor is so much higher. Will Cooper Kupp ever have a 45-point game like Jefferson or Chase can? Maybe not, but I feel like he's on pace to have more 30-point games more consistently. So Devontae Adams is another guy like that. Michael Thomas when he was in his prime, which he actually looks pretty good right now. I think the older guys are a little more qualified to have a safer floor than some of these boomer bust guys. But I don't know, man. That's just something I noticed.
Yeah, we keep harping on it. It's a very, very strange year. I mean, you mentioned Adams. I was actually doing a write-up. If his touchdowns dry up, man, his points are horrible. It's just, I mean, the cliche is, don't panic. But even if you're looking to blow up your team, I
Mhm,
don't even know what type of assets outside of young or picks you go for. If you're contending, I don't know who is safe to trade for. I
mhm,
mean, Jonathan Taylor has looked bad 2 weeks in
mhm.
a row. Um, Javonta Williams is just nowhere at all what people were hoping.
He's
Gordon
not getting separation
keeps
ahead of
hanging around.
Gordon.
Swift
Yeah,
can't stay on the field. Swift, they're saying with their bye week being week 6, he'll probably be out till week 7. They're just going to shut him down.
yeah, that's what they're
It's just
suggesting.
Najee Harris. I mean, all these big name running backs, man. It's rough out there this year. And then with the like you said, the upper echelon young wide receivers have been extremely disappointing.
Mhm,
Diggs and Cup have been 1 and 2 easily, and they're both uh pushing 30.
mhm.
Tyreek Hill had the one huge game, which helps his like overall positioning, but he's not been great. He had a horrible weekend.
Yeah, I think Jalen Waddle's the guy. I think Jalen
Jalen
Waddle's the
Waddle
guy.
looks great. Yeah, he looks fantastic.
Yeah,
Christian Kirk has been one of the biggest surprises. Zay Jones.
yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
there's been
Trevor
some
Lawrence is
interesting,
popping
man.
off, man. Trevor
He looks
Lawrence is
good.
the real deal. He's the real deal.
That TD he threw to Marvin Jones, that throw was ridiculous
Yeah, I
on the
think.
run.
Yeah, I think he's. I think what happened is there was a lot of debate whether or not Trevor Lawrence was just not that good last year, or if it was Urban Meyer, and I think it was
Yeah.
just Urban Meyer, man, because that roster
Yeah.
is not that talented on offense still. I mean, he's got decent weapons. Like Kirk could get the job done. ETN hasn't. Well, James Robinson's been unbelievable.
Whew.
ETN
Yeah.
still, coming in at ease or easing into the position, but Trevor Lawrence is looking pretty good without
He looks
having
good,
these
man.
weapons that, Burrow got when he first started playing.
Yeah.
Herbert, right? Like, I don't know, man. I'm a big fan. I'm glad I didn't trade him for Swift straight up, dude. I was pondering that for like 3 weeks with another owner in a super flex league, and I'm happy I didn't do it.
Yeah, it's just something about Lawrence, man. I mean, obviously, I went pretty hard at Lawrence. He's my starter in 2 out of my 3 leagues. One of them super flex, the other's one QB. There's something about him, man. I just really like Lawrence.
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
think he's he's got the skill set.
Yeah, he was a big time prospect, supposed to be the best
Huge.
guy since Andrew Luck, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge prospect.
So let's go back to the running backs. And first off, I want to share a stat with you. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is like top 5 right now of the year. I don't know. I'm on ESPN right now. When we're live, I bounce between Sleeper and ESPN, where I guess stats might slightly change. I don't know how they record them or in what time. But CEH last week had 7 rushing attempts for 0 yards, but 1 touchdown. So he must have scored a touchdown.
Yards.
What's up?
Yeah, 0 yards.
Yeah, he was at like the 0.1 yard line.
Yeah.
The goal line.
Yep.
Dude, what a stat, dude. What a stat.
I know, it's unbelievable. Somebody I actually just was talking to on DLF kind of called me out for saying that CEH, how could he be worth? I said he's worth a random second.
Yeah.
No way anybody trades a first.
Yeah.
And he gave me his point totals. And he said, how can this guy only be worth a random second when he's a top 5 running back? And I said, you can't argue with the top 5, but dude, you got to look deeper at his stats. If he doesn't score a touchdown, if he doesn't score a touchdown last week, he scores 3 points. The week before, he probably scored 2.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. He had a running back with 0 rushing yards. No, thanks.
0 rushing yards and a teeter.
Yeah,
that's an
I'm good on
stat,
that,
dude.
Yeah, I'm good.
What are his yards per carry? What does that amount to? Just 0? 0 yards per carry?
Yeah, 0.
Dang, I was hoping it'd be like indefinite or something. So
I mean, I couldn't argue what the guy was saying, but like that's the danger of sorting by positional ranks. It's not, dude, 0 rushing yards for a running back.
I don't think I've ever seen that. I don't think I've legit ever seen 0 rushing yards and a touchdown. That very well could be like a first in like modern day NFL.
I've seen it once, and it was Cam Akers had those 3 carries.
Oh God, just as bad.
Yeah, but I mean, 3 carries for 0 yards, 7 for 0 is infinitely worse.
Yeah, that's bad. That's bad.
And I wasn't like trying to call the guy out. I totally see what he's saying, but it's like, dude, if you think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is worth a first, man, walk away from the computer. Don't make that trade.
Yeah, so high, so high.
Yeah, or make that trade if you're getting the first.
So
0 yards.
zero. Yeah, I don't even know how you could like. I don't know how you can even comprehend that as a buyer.
It's too much fun, man. That's fun.
Yeah, it's definitely fun.
That epitomizes the 2022 season. Gets in the end zone on 0 yards. That's impressive.
You would think they'd round up or something if you got a touchdown, dude. I don't
Give him
know.
a yard.
All right, so going back on the running backs, the perceived studs preseason definitely aren't performing to our expectations. I think that what we've learned here, I'm going to focus on redraft for 1 second. I'm not in many redraft leagues, but I used to be a firm believer that stud running backs basically win redraft leagues. But what's happened over the last 3-4 years, they all get hurt or they all suck. So I think now the pivot here is to go after wide receivers. And I used to be opposed to drafting wide receivers and rookie wide receivers in redraft leagues because they take time to develop. But guys like Drake London and Garrett Wilson are both top 20 guys balling out with subpar QB play, and they're having a great start to the season. So I think this is going to start affecting my dynasty strategy a little bit because I got to be honest, I'm regretting taking Kenneth Walker at the 102 in one league when I should have took London, right? And then last year I took Najee Harris, and I knew I should have took Chase. You and I talked a lot about why Najee Harris was my RB1 or my rookie 101 over Chase, and that was running back scarcity and whatnot. He looks awful, dude. His yards per carry is so bad. He looks so slow. That team is garbage. So
yeah, he looks rough, man.
He looks rough. But anyway, so with the strategies changing, and this is where I'm heading to, I'm looking at a lot of these guys right now at the top of the leaderboards, and the top running backs, some of these guys include James Robinson, Cordell Patterson, Jamal Williams, Khalil Herbert. I mean, come on, you know what I mean? You can't necessarily predict that, but why are we spending so much capital and so much? Why are we paying for these high-end running backs when maybe the strategy is to get stud receivers and then just bench a ton of running backs and wait for an indefinite injury?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you've known my philosophy for a couple of years now that I'm more of a wide receiver guy, and this is exactly why. But at the same time, if you can land one stud guy, like even though Taylor's not lived up to what the hype is yet, I would still rather have Taylor than Dobbins as my only running back. If you can have one stud guy and then just pile wide receivers, like in our big league, Brendan, you have start one running back and then there's one wide out, 3 flex. Like if you're starting one running back and then flexing all wideouts, I think is a better way to go. Yeah. But again, you got to, I think, still have that perceived stud because they are so rare. They are so valuable, so hard to come by. But like I mentioned with how bad the running backs have been this year, Khalil Herbert hasn't even played an entire game and he's a top 5 running back. That'll let you know what a disaster that position is.
Dude, he was so good though. He was
he looked amazing.
Great, man.
Looked amazing.
Great.
But a top 5 with not playing a full game really lets you know how bad the position is this year.
Yeah, I agree. There's not much consistency. I mean, even guys who we thought would get a ton of work like Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, they're not at the top.
Yeah. And Henry was saved by 2 touchdowns this week. It's just, I never thought running back would be the type of position, as long as I've played, where you're just hoping for a touchdown. You used to be able to get enough yards that it's like, wow, he rushed for 140 yards, so still a good game. He didn't score, but you're not getting that anymore.
Top guys always rushed over 100 yards. They always. The studs always got to.
Yeah,
always.
Absolutely.
So I think what I'd like to recommend here now for dynasty players who are contending, I'm sure a lot of rosters maybe have like JT or McCaffrey, Eckler, Henry, which is fine, but maybe it's time to figure out how you can spend some draft capital and maybe bolster up your running back room. And maybe somebody's willing to let go of James Robinson for a second, or Khalil Herbert for a second, or Kareem Hunt for a second, right? These guys are out there then I think
Right.
that might be a good option. I mean, granted, it's going to be a pain to try to figure out who to start and who to sit, but it's only a matter of time before more players get injured. It happens every year. There
For
hasn't really
sure.
been a season-ending injury for a big-time RB yet, which I'm shocked. Usually there's a couple by this time. But I think that that's a good strategy. I actually saw Khalil Herbert. He was bought for 2 second-round picks like 20 minutes before the game, and
Oh,
I
wow.
started him. Yeah, it was my brother. He actually,
Wow.
in one of our big leagues, he paid 2 second-round picks, and everyone was like, "Dang, dude, that's a
Yeah,
lot."
that's a lot. Looks
Yeah.
good now, probably.
Looks hella good now. Absolutely, dude. I don't even think he has Montgomery. I don't think he does. So
I tried to buy Khalil Herbert the last 2 or 3 weeks because it was just like he's better than what I got, you know?
yeah, and he's young. He's young. But that's the thing is some of these backup running backs are most likely good enough to start on their own. The problem is by the time their rookie contracts are over, they're already 24, 25,
Yeah,
and they never really got that role. Like Alexander Madison is probably good enough to be a starter. Tony
probably.
Pollard, probably good enough to be a starter. But the problem is when their contracts are up or the starting running back ahead of them, who a lot of these guys get extensions, they don't get their shot. But we see like this week, Dalvin Cook could miss with the shoulder injury. I think he dislocated it like he does every year, which
Yeah.
last year when he
Yeah.
did this, the game after he actually had like a 50-point game. But
Right.
my point being is like having a guy like Madison on your bench, even if you don't own Cook, you can either A, leverage Madison to the Cook owner, or B, inevitably, Dalvin Cook's going to get hurt at the end of the season, and
Yeah.
you're going to have Alexander Madison as a nice flex play. So that's what I think the strategy here is maybe try to figure out how to get some of these lower tier RBs that have been producing that people are willing to sell low on because their name doesn't carry much value and just stash them. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And kind of on the opposite side of that spectrum that you're talking about, this is why we're always, you and I, hammering that when it's time to move on from running backs, it's time to move on. Like Derrick Henry, it's too late.
Yeah.
Austin Eckler, it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
Dalvin Cook, it's too late. Like these
Yeah.
guys, the writing was on the wall that they weren't going to be as good as they were the year prior and maybe not good at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't mean like obviously Austin Eckler has a great skill set, but the guy is undersized, aging, and relies a lot on catches.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the number 3 back last year. Just holding him is just not a great play, and you're kind
Yeah.
of seeing this year that, I mean, Eckler looks terrible. He looks
Yeah.
awful.
All those guys do.
Yeah.
All those guys. And you know what? And I'm a sucker for it too. But at the end of the day, you're a chump if you don't sell your running backs on their contract year or right before their contract year. RBs, you have to sell at their peak because once they hit their peak, they probably gave you 2 pretty dang good years, maybe top 15, top 5, but you got to sell them, get max value, reset the clock. So, I actually I traded I think you saw that trade. I traded away Austin Eckler. I got DJ Moore and Antonio Gibson, which I was a little upset with that first, but Gibson looks decent right now. DJ Moore looks awful, but I felt like,
he looks bad.
Yeah, he looks really bad. He looks really bad. I'm starting to believe DJ Moore was never that guy. He's like a roster clogger, bro. Like he's got a good name. He's still young. And like he puts up, he's a consistent like wide receiver 20. And you just have hope.
I'd be trying to trade both of them personally.
Exactly. So maybe I should try to trade both those guys because I feel like they now carry more value than Austin Eckler alone, which maybe not anymore at the moment. But, you're assuming you got a back end running back 1 and a back end wide receiver 1 for an RB1. Well, Gibson's outscoring Eckler right now, right? And he's, 2 years younger. So that means I basically got DJ Moore for free. So I don't know. Like how I play the game is I try to move on from these guys when the time is right and try to double down and get younger and then reset the clock. Additionally, one thing that people are going to have to start recognizing soon is, we always say don't panic, but week 4 is already here. We're a month into football, man.
Yeah.
A month into football. In like a week or 2, maybe I'd say 2 weeks, if your team isn't coming together, you got to figure out how to maximize on the guys you have. You got to start trading pieces to contenders, even if you take a slight hit in value for the future. Guys, I'm targeting right now, all those rookie wide receivers. I'm going after Drake London, Garrett Wilson. Breece Hall's he's probably cheaper now than he was with the 101. So I would look for Breece Hall. Guys like that, I think, are really going to start taking over the rankings here. So yeah, if the ship sailed, you're too late. But if somebody's a buyer, I'd sell. I saw Derrick Henry go for 2023 seconds and like Tony Pollard like a week ago. It's bad.
Yeah, I mean that's probably his worth at best.
Yeah, it was bad. I offered a 2024 first and got declined. And actually the person who bought him played him against me and beat me.
Yeah, of course, man.
It's bad. So I don't know. That's my philosophy. I feel like you got to start selling these guys. Running backs aren't a sure thing anymore. And yeah, I'd start doubling down and getting some pieces. How do you feel? How do you feel about guys like JT, Diggs? Who else is on top? Cup. Like, is it time to sell after this season for sure? JT's got to be a sell, man, after this season because he's in year 3. He's probably going to get an extension. He's approaching his contract year. He probably will never have as much value at the end of this season ever again.
Yeah, I mean, all that stuff always comes down to return for me. It depends on what you can get back. I mean, I wouldn't force any deals, but yeah, man, I think it depends on which direction you want to go. I mean, you and I have also talked about in the past that sometimes you also need some vets. Sometimes your team is too young and it looks awesome on paper, but never materializes even over the years, So I think there's a healthy mix between solid players and youth. I think Diggs and Cup are both safe to hold, You're probably not going to get what they're worth within your lineup just because they are both pushing 30, which instantly means their value is not very good. So I could see holding pieces like that. Taylor, to me, heavily comes down to return because he is, even though he's not doing as much currently with it, his workload's huge, which is rare. Nick Chubb looks like the safest running back in fantasy to me right now. He gets huge workload, scores, gets over 100 yards. So
I got to bust out the Nick Chubb jersey, brother. I haven't worn it.
Yeah, I'm telling you. I think it comes down to looking at it realistically of what does it look like moving forward? Like, again, you and I talking Derrick Henry, Eckler, guys like that to me, Deebo Samuel, guys like that were pretty obvious regression candidates. Whereas, the guys that we're talking about now, I don't really see that as the case. I think they could still produce and will produce. But, that's what makes it tricky is you really, there is no crystal ball. You really don't know. I mean, Taylor's been very disappointing, but he hasn't been that bad, which, really shows what kind of asset I think he is. So, selling those kind of guys right now is risky, but hey, man, it's all about the return.
Agreed.
Depends on what it does for your team.
Agreed. Let me hit you with this quick would you rather question, and then I'm going to briefly talk about a couple key pickups that could be on the waivers, whether it's dynasty or redraft. Would you rather have Javonta Williams or Drake London and Devontae Smith? It's hard, man.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I would probably say Williams on value, but I think London and Smith are safer, possibly safer floors, safer long term.
So that's what this episode has been all about, man, is like these running backs are so unpredictable. They're so volatile, but usually it takes rookie wide receivers to maybe settle in quicker. But Drake London's looked the par. I mean, if he's doing this right now, why can't he do it later when his situation's better? Devontae Smith coming off a big game, right? It's hard trading a stud running back, but you got two, top 20 wide receivers right there as of this year, man, who are young and upcoming. So I would always say Javonta Williams easily, like without a doubt, take the running back. But now my philosophy's changed, man. It's changed this year. And I think Drake London and Devontae Smith's the way to go, man.
Yeah, and it's interesting what you said is very, very true around the community. Is everybody says Javonta Williams is a stud running back. He's really not. At the end of the day, his name is, but his production is not. But then again, like we're saying before, that's what comes down to return. You know,
Mhm.
if you're moving Williams and somebody does view him as a stud and gives you a haul, the smart move probably is to move on, even though historically in Dynasty, your brain is telling you, dude, you can't move a young running back. You can't do it. You can't do it, you know? But Javonta Williams is not nearly as good on the field production wise as his value is. He's not,
Mhm.
there's no way.
You know, and he's shown that he can break tackles, but he never really has had that successful, like that dominant fantasy season yet, or a few weeks of dominating. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's crazy. I would never have said take the wide receivers, but that's how my philosophy has changed. All right, Tyler, real quick, here are some key waiver wire pickups in my opinion. Let's keep it to the running back position just because things are a little funky. 3 people that I'm going after right now. For sure, Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams actually, he plays pretty well when he's out there on the field, and he actually takes some touchdowns away from Swift. So if
It
he's got
does.
2-3 weeks on his own, he's definitely going to be, I'd say, a top 15 running back ready to go. Next up, I'd start getting ready to roster Alexander Madison if no one's got him rostered yet. I think you pretty much have to. And then lastly, I don't know, man. I feel like Jeff Wilson's already rostered. Jeff Wilson's going to get hurt probably next week because, that's how they do. They get 3 weeks and then they're done. Cordell Patterson's probably rostered. I would say maybe, honestly, Ramondre Stevenson, if he's not taken yet. I think Ramondre Stevenson is going to get a nice workload moving forward as well. These are guys that you can win week to week at your running back position. So they're cheap.
Sure.
They're almost free. Go get them.
Yeah, man, I only got 2 because I've been out of redraft for so long. I can't even wrap my head around redraft anymore. Deep
I suck.
Dynasty.
I'm 0-3, by the way. I finished
Nice,
last
man.
place. I do one redraft league with my family. I finished 2 years ago. I finished last place, and then last year I finished bottom 3. Now I'm 0-3 this year again. I'm so bad at it.
That's that dynasty head, you know.
My roster looks great dynasty wise because I can't get away from
Sure.
the young studs. I'm like, oh, the potential.
Right. Yeah, the only 2 I got would be Craig Reynolds, obviously a deep stash. If something happens to Williams, Craig Reynolds, next guy up. He runs hard. Detroit loves him. He works hard. And then who was I going to say? Man, it just left my head.
I see Kenneth Gainwell on a waiver
Yeah,
wire.
I'm sorry.
Dynasty. That's crazy.
I completely lost who I was going to say.
How do you feel about some of the wide
back.
receivers? How do you feel about Matt Collins?
Don't trust him at all, but hey, if you got the room, never hurts to stash. I think in shorter bench dynasty league, Zay Jones for sure could be out there. I'd stash him. The other running back I was going to say with what you said about Jeff Wilson is you might as well stash Jordan Mason. You never know.
Yeah, a guy most of us have never heard before, but if he's on the 49ers roster, if he's on the 49ers practice squad as the running back, go get him.
Yeah, he's the backup right now. So
he's going to be the starter in 2 weeks. Let's get it.
He could be.
Let's get it. Cool, man. Cool. Well, yeah, I think that's going to do it tonight. Tyler, looking forward to having you here in Chicago. Folks, we're going to try to do a broadcast in person together here in Chicago on Saturday. So stay tuned. Good luck with your trades, your waiver pickups. I know most leagues, they run the waivers Wednesday mornings. Good luck Thursday night. And yeah, that's all I got, Tyler. How about you, man?
Awesome, man. Yeah, looking forward to seeing you in Chicago in the coming days. And yeah, I can hear the dogs outside the door getting rowdy. They're ready to go, man.
They gotta go.
Ready to go for that stroll.
Who let the dogs out, baby? All right, folks, thank you so much. Just remember, you're in this for life.